Darkness. Frederick is floating across an infinite void, an all-encompassing cold seeping into every atom of his being. The stars, dead. A gut-wrenching sense of dread fills him as he stirs from his stupor. Panicked, he looks in every direction, finding nothing but endless absence. Helplessness. How long has he been here for? Where is he? He tries to move his body, but it doesn't respond to his commands. All he manages to do is float around helplessly through the vast expanses of nothing. Is he even alive? Countless questions race through his panicked mind, trying to make sense of this situation. And then something. Something he remembers from before. That familiar mote of light, a bit more distinct in its shape this time. What used to be a formless source of light at first has, instead, turned into a dense cluster of 6 tiny, warm and welcoming marbles, floating in front of his eyes. A pair of 2 large motes float into view and join the first ones, their colours slightly different though. He tries to reach for them, mesmerised by the dancing lights. Just as he is about to touch the first one with his middle finger, they vanish, the warm feeling of security gone with them, replaced by something entirely else. The void around him begins to stir, to toss and to twist, as if he just woke an angry god from their eternal slumber. An unholy orchestra of snarls, barks, and animalistic roars fill his surroundings. Out of nowhere, dozens, hundreds of claws and fangs begin to tear at him, sinking themselves into his very being. They keep tearing and ripping him apart, showing no signs of mercy or slowing down. With a searing white flash, Frederick awakes, staring at an unknown metal ceiling. His heart is pounding in his chest, his own heartbeat rising to his ears, but his pulse is eerily slow. The combination feeling just wrong. Just another nightmare. He tries to get into an upright position, but dozens of wounds across his torso begin to burn, making him flinch and lie back down. God, what the fuck happened? He groans, and has to cough at his sore and dry throat. Lacking the energy, and in too much pain to move his body, he turns his head to take in his surroundings instead. To Frederick, it looks like an interestingly decorated prison cell. Metal walls, metal floor, and a metal ceiling. But whoever locked him in here thought it a good idea to decorate the walls here and there with brightly coloured Arabic-style fabrics, put some seating cushions and a low coffee table in the centre of the room for good measure, and lay out a pretty carpet for comfort. What is this place? He deliriously croaks, yearning for something to drink. Him waking up seems to have caught someone's attention, as the weight on his legs begin to shift that he hadn't noticed before. There is a soft snort as a crimson figure the size of an adult German shepherd begins to rise their head from his blanket, sitting next to his bed. All of his fears about his situation are immediately forgotten. "Bubby!" he excitedly exclaims, hurting his poor throat. If they were only half awake until now, then there is absolutely no doubt that Bubbles is completely awake now, their 6 eyes wide open at hearing their name come out of his mouth. They excitedly rush up to him and rub their head against his, purring delightfully. "Hey, glad to see you too," Frederick whispers, as he laboriously lifts his left arm to give that way too cute bund of floof and murder a good scritching. Shortly after, Bubbles seems to have calmed down, and they sit down on the ground next to him, bark purring. "Mwah!" "Yep, me too, buddy," he jests. Frederick grits his teeth as he moves the blanket off of himself, feeling the urge to get a better look at his injuries, because if he were to judge by how he is feeling like right now, he was probably jumped by some drugged-up homeless person, got cut into 1,000 pieces with a dull butter knife. In short, it feels bad. Preparing for the worst, he tosses the warm fabric aside and takes a good look, at least as good as he can right now, at his body. His cuts have been glued shut with some kind of semi-transparent gel, it seems, and the underwear he is wearing right now is definitely not the same he wore before blacking out. He would definitely remember putting on a toga-style diaper wrapping. "What the?" he thinks out loud. He strains his mind trying to remember what happened. He got out of those damn vents. Then he stumbled into some kind of side alley and got into a fight with some scary-as-hell werewolf aliens, and then there was a 3-meter-tall pangolin bearded dragon alien, and that princess carried him away. That can't be right. Did he accidentally eat some hallucinogenic exoplants? He stares into Bubbles' eyes, hoping to find an answer somewhere in there. His fuzzy friend tilts their head, one ear lazily flopping over. They try in confusion. Frederick doesn't answer, still struggling to remember what actually happened. Wait, wasn't there some kind of red panda alien as well? His musings are suddenly interrupted by Bubbles, who presses their cold, wet snout against his neck, causing him to let out a yelp no one would expect from a grown man. What was that for? He complains. Rah! They're concerned, he realizes quickly. Don't worry. I'm just a bit beat up, I think. And don't do that again, he quickly adds. The way they beam at him tells him that this was certainly not the last time it would happen. He sighs and takes a deep breath. Some wounds here and there flaring with pain, but he does his best to ignore it. He smiles faintly as he reaches out and pets Bubbles behind there, flopped over ear. Thanks for worrying about me. They look proud and puff out their chest, happily bubbling to themselves. He takes in the sight of Bubbles, unharmed, here to cheer him up, and drooling a bit. Looking behind them, he spots 2 pottery bowls on the coffee table he saw earlier, one of which has something resembling an exotic fruit sticking out of it. He suddenly feels a lot hungrier than before, his stomach growling with perfect timing. He nods to the table and smiles sheepishly at Bubbles. Could you get those for me, please? Doesn't really feel like I can just get up and move around yet. In a very human way, they eagerly nod and trot over to grab the bowl with some fruit sticking out of it. Back at the side of his bed, they gently place it on the floor and happily chuff at him. Thanks, Bubby. He boozles closer to the edge of his mattress and blindly reaches into the bowl, grabbing whatever his hand touches first. The lucky winner looks like a fist-sized interpretation of a dragon fruit. The colour and overall feel of it a tad bit different from his Earth-based counterpart. Frederick gives it a careful sniff and scratch to test its texture. Should I really eat an alien mystery fruit that someone left here? Fuck it. He takes a small bite. Damn. It is surprisingly good. The inside is more like a tomato, but the taste is almost as he expected. He takes another larger bite and holds out the half-eaten fruit for Bubbles to try. This stuff is great. Bubbles gives him a doubting look and purrs dubiously. He gives them an encouraging smile. They would have rolled their eyes if they could, but they still follow his suggestion, although they don't look too confident. Bubbles holds eye contact as they reluctantly tear out a small piece and swallow it. And? Frederick asks, with anticipation. They almost immediately begin to retch and quickly spit out the piece of fruit, with a little extra. Not really your kind of food, huh? He asks sympathetically. They glare at him before firmly shaking their head. Yeah, sorry. Should have known better with you being a killing machine and all. But I guess that means more for me, he jests. Bubbles chuffs in annoyance, and their sour-smelling breath wafts over to Frederick as they walk back to the coffee table, fetching the other bowl. Right, what's inside that one? He asks, squeezing a second fruit out of his mouth, drinking its contents through a small hole he bit into the peel. They answer his question by quickly snagging and devouring a piece of raw meat, the size of a chicken breast whole. Oh, I get it. Bubbles tilts their head again, shooting him a questioning glance. They don't know what we can eat, you see. He groans as he shifts to point to the meatball, then to Bubbles. Based on how you reacted to that fruit, you're most likely a carnivore, only able to eat meat. He grimaces slightly. Again, sorry about that. Right. He then points to the fruit bowl, the meatball, and at himself. But I'm an omnivore. We humans can eat both meat and fruit, he explains. They seem to have understood his little lesson, nodding slowly as they lazily lie on the floor, currently in the process of wolfing down another slab of meat. Man, I'll be able to teach you so many things in the future, he muses. Staring back at the ceiling, he enjoys the comfortable silence for a few minutes. Man, I totally forgot about that, he thinks out loud. Bubby? Prah! Make sure you don't eat too much, alright? We could literally die if we ate too much right now. Prah! He turns his head to face him again. I'm serious. I know you're hungry. We both are, but please, don't eat any more, alright? Refeeding syndrome is a nasty, cruel joke of nature, and I don't want to lose you. They reluctantly nod and drop their current meal back into the bowl, climbing up into bed and snuggled up against him, nuzzling into his neck. He grabs the blanket he threw off in his earlier attempt to get up and carefully drapes it over the both of them. They let out a huff and close their eyes, quietly purring. Thank you for listening, he murmurs, while rhythmically rubbing their head and slowly drifting back to sleep, ignoring the hunger pangs with the help of his oh-so-warm, fluffy friend. His thoughts are constantly drawn to the weeks of struggling, sleepless days and cold nights, those terrifying canine monsters that tore him up in that alley, and his nonsensical memories. But his fuzzy companion is right next to him. They are safe right now. With his stomach at least somewhat full and his thirst quenched, he feels a sense of security and fulfillment as he finally drifts off to sleep, feeling safe for the first time in weeks.